Let me ask you something before we go any further today. What if the goal you're chasing right now, the one that keeps you up at night, was never really about the goal at all? What if I told you that the thing you want so badly to achieve is not nearly as important as what achieving it will make of you? Sit with that for a second, because what I'm about to share with you took me years to understand. And once I understood it, it changed the entire direction of my life. I want to take you back to a moment that changed everything for me. I was a young man, ambitious but confused, working hard but not really getting anywhere, when I met a man who would become my mentor. I'll call him my teacher because that's exactly what he was. And one afternoon, sitting across from him, I asked him what I thought was a simple question. I asked him, why should I set a goal to become wealthy? And instead of giving me a simple answer, he gave me one of the most profound lessons of my entire life. He said, set a goal to become a millionaire, not for the money, but for what it will make of you to achieve it. I remember sitting there stunned because in one sentence, this man had rearranged everything I thought I understood about ambition, about success, about the entire purpose of setting goals in the first place. Think about that for a moment. Most people set goals backwards. They chase the house, they chase the car, they chase the number in the bank account, and they believe that once they arrive, they will finally become someone. But my teacher flipped the whole equation. He said the goal is not the destination. The goal is the excuse. The goal is the reason you wake up at 5 in the morning when you'd rather sleep in. The goal is the reason you read the book instead of watching another hour of television. The goal is the reason you have the hard conversation instead of avoiding it. The goal is not there to reward you when you arrive. The goal is there to develop you on the way. Here is the sentence I want you to remember for the rest of your life. The greatest value in life is not what you get. The greatest value in life is what you become. Read that again. Not what you get, what you become. Because what you get, you can lose. What you get can be taken from you, spent, stolen, burned down in a single afternoon. But what you become, nobody can take that from you. Not a recession, not a bad partnership, not a fire, not a failure. The skills you build, the discipline you develop, the character you carve out of your own daily choices, that becomes a permanent part of who you are, and it will produce results again and again and again, no matter how many times life knocks you down. I want you to think about the people you admire most. Is it really the money they have, or is it who they had to become to get it? Because if you took all their money away tomorrow, most of them would build it right back. And do you know why? Because the money was never the real asset. The real asset was the person they became in the process of pursuing it. That is the whole secret hiding in plain sight, and almost nobody teaches it this way. Let's talk about goals for a moment, because I think we've been sold a lie about what goals are actually for. We've been told, set a goal, work hard, get the reward, and that's the whole story. But that is such a shallow way to look at something so powerful. A real goal, a goal worth setting, should be so large, so far outside your current capabilities, that the only way to reach it is to change who you are along the way. If your goal doesn't require you to grow, it's not a goal. It's just a task. Tasks you can finish on a Tuesday afternoon. Goals should take years, and by the time you reach them, you should barely recognize the person you used to be. I used to set small goals, comfortable goals, goals I already knew how to achieve with my current skill set, my current habits, my current level of discipline. And you know what happened? I achieved them, and I felt nothing. No transformation, no growth. Because a goal you can already achieve with who you already are will never change who you are. It's only when you set a goal that terrifies you a little, a goal that seems almost unreasonable, that you're forced to reach for a version of yourself that doesn't exist yet. And that reaching, that stretching, that is where the real value lives. Let me bring this into your everyday life, because philosophy is worthless if it doesn't change your Monday morning. Think about your career for a moment. Maybe you're chasing a promotion, a title, a certain salary. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with ambition. But ask yourself the deeper question. Who do you have to become to earn that position? Do you have to become someone who reads more than everyone else in your industry? Someone who shows up earlier and stays a little longer, not because someone's watching, but because you've made a decision about the kind of professional you intend to be? Do you have to become someone who can handle rejection, criticism, and setbacks without collapsing? Because here's the truth. The title might last a few years, The person you had to become to deserve it will serve you for the rest of your working life in every job you ever hold after that one. Now let's talk about discipline, because this is where most people fall apart, and I want to be honest with you about it. Discipline is not a punishment. Somewhere along the way, we started treating discipline like a prison sentence, like something we endure instead of something we build. But discipline is simply the price of admission to the life you say you want. And here is what nobody tells you. Discipline doesn't get easier because the tasks get lighter. Discipline gets easier because you get stronger. The 5 o'clock wake up doesn't become easy because mornings change. It becomes easy because you become the kind of person who doesn't negotiate with their own excuses anymore. That is what it will make of you if you let it. I remember going through a season where nothing I tried seemed to work. Every plan fell apart. Every effort seemed to evaporate before it could produce anything. And I went to my mentor, frustrated, almost ready to quit, and I asked him why nothing was working. And he told me something I've never forgotten. He said, Rohn, don't wish it were easier. Wish you were better. Don't wish for fewer problems. Wish for more skills. Don't wish for fewer challenges. Wish for more wisdom. Because the challenges are not your enemy. The challenges are the very things sent to develop the parts of you that haven't grown yet. If your life feels easy right now, you're probably not growing. And if your life feels hard right now, that might be the exact evidence that something valuable is being built inside you. Let's slow down for a moment, because I want you to really absorb this next part. There is a difference between growth and simply getting older. Time will pass for you no matter what you do. You will turn another year older, whether you read the book or not, whether you take the class or not, whether you have the hard conversation or not. Time is going to happen to you regardless. But growth is optional. Growth is a choice you renew every single day. And here's the tragedy I've seen in so many lives. People confusing the passing of years with the process of growing. Don't let another year slip by where you're simply older, but not wiser, not stronger, not more skilled, not more disciplined. Time will move forward with or without your permission. Make sure you're moving forward with it. Now, I want to talk about relationships for a moment, because this lesson doesn't just apply to your bank account or your career. It applies to every person in your life. Think about the person you want to become as a partner, as a parent, as a friend. If your goal is simply to be loved, to be appreciated, to be needed, that's a shallow goal. And shallow goals rarely produce anything lasting. But if your goal is to become the kind of person worth loving, patient where you used to be short-tempered, present where you used to be distracted, generous where you used to be guarded, now you're building something that outlasts any single relationship. Because the person you become in one relationship, you carry into every relationship after it. The child you're patient with today shapes the parent you become tomorrow. The partner you show up for during hard seasons shapes the kind of partner you'll always be. Once again, it was never really about what you got from that person. It was always about who that relationship helped you become. Let me tell you something about failure too, because this lesson doesn't make any sense unless we talk about it honestly. If the goal itself was the only point, then failure would be a tragedy every single time. But if what you become is the real prize, then failure becomes something entirely different. Failure becomes tuition. Failure becomes the professor you didn't ask for but desperately needed. I have failed more times than I can count. Business deals that collapsed, plans that fell apart in front of everyone watching, money lost that took years to earn back. But here's what I noticed after enough time had passed. Every failure had made a deposit into who I was becoming, even when I couldn't see it in the moment. The failures that felt like the end of me were actually the very thing sharpening me for what came next. Do not waste your failures. Do not let them pass through your life without asking them what they came to teach you. I want you to imagine two different people, both setting out to build the exact same goal, same income target, same business, same dream house, same everything on paper. One person is only chasing the outcome. And the moment they get uncomfortable, the moment the work gets repetitive or the results get slow, they quit because their only motivation was the prize at the end. The other person understands what my mentor taught me. They know the discomfort itself is doing something to them. They know the slow months are quietly building patience they didn't have before. They know the setbacks are installing resilience they'll need for the rest of their life. Same goal, same starting line. But only one of them is truly building something permanent. because only one of them understood that the goal was never really the point. Let me talk to you about seasons for a moment, because understanding this changed the way I looked at every single struggle I ever went through. There are seasons in life just like there are seasons in nature, and you don't get to skip any of them. There's planting season. There's a long season where nothing seems to be happening at all. There's a season of storms you didn't ask for, and eventually, if you were faithful during the parts nobody was watching, there's a harvest. Most people want the harvest without the planting. They want the fruit without ever touching the soil. But my mentor used to say, don't wish for less rain, wish for stronger roots. The storms are not there to ruin the crop. The storms are there to test whether the roots go deep enough to survive what's coming. And here's the part that took me the longest to understand. The season where nothing seems to be happening. The quiet season, the boring season. The season where you show up and show up and show up and see no visible result. That is not a wasted season. That is the season where the roots are growing underground, where nobody can see them. It's easy to be disciplined when people are applauding. The real test is whether you keep watering a field that hasn't shown a single sign of life yet. That is exactly where character is built, in the waiting, in the invisible middle, long before anyone else can see what you're becoming. I want to talk to you about self-education, because this is one part of the lesson that changed the entire trajectory of my life. And I don't think people take it seriously enough. Formal education might make you a living, but self-education will make you a fortune. And more importantly, it will make you a different person entirely. I remember my mentor asking me a strange question one day. He asked, "How many books have you read this year?" And I didn't have a good answer. And he told me something that stuck with me forever. He said, "You are the same person today that you'll be in 5 years, except for the books you read and the people you associate with." Think about that. Except for the books you read and the people you associate with. Two things. Just two things standing between the person you are right now and the person you could become 5 years from now. Most people spend more time planning a 2-week vacation than they spend planning their own personal growth. They'll research a restaurant for an hour, but won't open a book that could change the next decade of their life. Don't be like that. Read something every single day, even if it's just a few pages. Feed your mind the way you feed your body. Because a starving mind produces a starving life, no matter how many hours you put into your job. And let's talk about who you associate with, because this one is uncomfortable, but it's necessary. You cannot hang out with negative people and expect to live a positive life. You cannot surround yourself with people who have no ambition and expect ambition to somehow rub off on you by accident. My mentor put it simply. He said, "You become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Not because it's magic, but because their habits become your normal. Their excuses become your excuses. Their ceiling quietly becomes your ceiling, unless you're vigilant about who you let influence you." This doesn't mean you abandon people. It means you become intentional. Spend time with people who challenge you to grow. People who tell you the truth even when it's uncomfortable. People whose habits and standards pull you upward instead of letting you settle. Because remember, this whole lesson is about becoming, and who you spend your days with is quietly shaping who you're becoming, whether you're paying attention or not. Now, here is something that will surprise you, because most people don't connect this to goal setting at all, but I want you to think about your health and your body for a moment. Why does discipline in the gym matter if the real goal is who you become? Because taking care of your body is one of the purest forms of keeping a promise to yourself. Every morning you choose to move your body, to eat something that serves you instead of something that only satisfies you for a moment. You are practicing the exact same muscle you'll need for every other discipline in your life. The person who can say no to the extra slice at midnight is quietly training the same part of themselves that will say no to the shortcut in business, the same part that will say no to the easy lie, the same part that will say no to giving up when a goal gets difficult. Taking care of your body isn't vanity, it's proof, evidence you can gather every single day that you are becoming someone who keeps their word to themselves. Let me tell you a story about a season where I almost gave up completely, because I think you need to hear that even the people who teach these lessons have lived through the darkest version of doubting them. There was a period in my life where every plan I built collapsed. I had bet on the wrong opportunities, trusted the wrong partnerships, and found myself further behind than when I started. I remember sitting alone one evening, genuinely wondering if all of this talk about becoming, about growth, about character, was just a nice story we tell ourselves to feel better about failing. And in that low moment, I went back to that single sentence my mentor gave me. Set a goal for what it will make of you to achieve it. And the first asked myself a hard question. If I quit right now, what will quitting make of me? And I already knew the answer. Quitting would make me someone who folds the moment life gets difficult. Quitting would install a belief in me that difficulty means stop. And I did not want that belief living inside me for the rest of my life. So I didn't quit because the outcome suddenly looked more promising. I kept going because I refused to let the difficulty write that particular story into my character. That decision, made in one of my lowest moments, quietly built more strength in me than any success ever did. I also want to talk to you about gratitude for a moment, because gratitude and growth are more connected than people realize. It's very easy to become so obsessed with what you don't have yet that you become blind to what you've already become. Take a moment right now and think about who you were 5 years ago, not what you had, who you were. Were you as disciplined then as you are now? Did you handle stress the way you handle it now? Did you have the skills you've quietly built since then? If you can honestly say you've grown even a little, that is worth celebrating before you chase the next version of yourself. Gratitude isn't the opposite of ambition. Gratitude is what keeps ambition from turning into bitterness. Appreciate the person you've already become on the way here, and then keep building from that place of appreciation instead of from a place of lack. There's one more piece of this I have to share with you, because it's the part that turns this lesson from something personal into something that outlives you entirely, and that is the idea of legacy. Because here's a question worth sitting with. When you're gone, what will people remember? Will they remember the number in your bank account, or will they remember who you were while you were building it? Will they remember the title on your business card, or will they remember how you made people feel, how you handled pressure, what kind of example you set when nobody was forcing you to set one? I have watched people spend their entire lives chasing what they could get, only to leave behind a legacy that fades within a single generation. And I've watched other people, quieter people, people who understood this lesson deep in their bones, leave behind something that outlasts them by decades, simply because of who they became and who they helped others become along the way. That is the real inheritance, not the size of the estate, the size of the character that estate was built on. I want you to notice something about everything we've talked about today. The career example, the discipline example, the relationships, the failures, the seasons, the reading, the associations, the health, the gratitude, the legacy. Every single one of them comes back to the exact same sentence my mentor gave me all those years ago. Set a goal, not for what it will give you, but for what it will make of you to achieve it. That sentence is not just about becoming a millionaire. That sentence is about every single goal you will ever set for the rest of your life. It applies to the parent you want to become, the professional you want to become, the neighbor, the friend, the leader, the human being you want to become. The goal is simply the vehicle. The becoming is the destination. There's a phrase my mentor used to repeat so often that I could probably say it in his exact voice even now. He said, "For every discipline you avoid today, you will face a regret tomorrow. And for every discipline you embrace today, you will enjoy a reward." Simple words, but let them sink in for a moment. Every single day, you are choosing between two futures, one where a small, uncomfortable action today prevents a much larger pain later, and one where a small comfort today quietly accumulates into a much larger cost down the road. Skipping the workout feels like nothing today. Skipping it for 10 years becomes a body that betrays you when you need it most. Avoiding the difficult conversation feels like relief today. Avoiding it for 10 years becomes a relationship built on unspoken resentment. Discipline is expensive, but it's a one-time cost paid in small daily installments. Regret is far more expensive, and it comes with interest. Choose your heart. Discipline is heavy by the ounce, but regret is heavy by the ton. Let's talk about patience for a moment. Because in a world obsessed with speed, patience has become almost a forgotten discipline, and yet it might be the single most valuable one when it comes to becoming who you're meant to be. Everyone wants the 10-year result in 10 months. Everyone wants the harvest without waiting for the season. But nature doesn't rush, and neither does real transformation. You cannot pray for patience and then get angry every time you're given an opportunity to practice it. Every delay, every slow month, every moment where the results haven't shown up yet is not evidence that you're failing. It might simply be evidence that something durable is being built, and durable things take time. The tree that grows in 3 years falls in the first storm. The tree that grows over 30 years survives storms that would flatten everything else around it. Give yourself permission to grow slowly, because slow growth is often the kind that lasts. I want to talk about fear too, because fear is the one thing standing between almost everyone and the goal that would actually stretch them into someone new. Here's what I've learned about fear over the years. Fear never actually disappears once you become successful. I still feel fear before big decisions. The difference is not the absence of fear. The difference is what you decide to do while the fear is still sitting right there next to you. Courage was never the absence of fear. Courage is simply moving forward while fear rides along in the passenger seat, uninvited but unable to stop you. If you wait for fear to leave before you take the next step, you'll be waiting for the rest of your life, because fear only fully leaves after you've already proven to it that it doesn't get to make your decisions for you. Let me talk to you about vision for a moment, because a goal without a vision behind it eventually runs out of fuel. A vision is different from a goal. A goal is the specific number, the specific title, the specific outcome. A vision is the picture of the life that goal is actually in service of. When the daily grind gets exhausting, and it will get exhausting, it is not the goal that pulls you out of bed. It is the vision of a parent you want to be able to provide for. The vision of the freedom you want to build for the people you love. The vision of the person you refuse to let life turn you into. Keep that vision so clear in your mind that on the days you don't feel like showing up, the vision shows up for you instead. I also want to talk to you about comparison, because comparison quietly destroys more dreams than failure ever will. It is so easy in this day and age to look at someone else's harvest and forget that you never saw them plant. You see their success today and forget the seasons of invisible effort behind it. Comparison convinces you that you're behind, when the truth is you're simply on a different timeline, building a different version of becoming that has nothing to do with anyone else's story. The only comparison worth making is between who you were yesterday and who you're choosing to become today. Measure yourself against your own history, not against someone else's highlight reel, and you will find far more honest and far more useful information about your own progress. Now let me talk to you about mentorship and giving back, because this lesson doesn't end with you. Once you understand that the goal was never really about what you get, you start to notice something beautiful, that the growth you've earned was never meant to stay locked inside you alone. My mentor didn't have to sit with a young, confused man and hand him a lesson that would shape his entire life. He could have kept that wisdom to himself, but he understood something important, that what you become is meant to be passed forward, not hoarded. Whatever you're becoming right now, through this season of discipline and struggle and growth, someone else is going to need exactly that version of you someday. A younger sibling, a coworker, a child, a stranger, at the exact moment they need to hear the one sentence that changes everything for them, the way that one sentence changed everything for me. Don't just become, and then give it away. Let's talk about the small rituals, because massive transformation is rarely made of massive moments. It's made of small, repeated, almost boring actions performed with discipline over a long period of time. The 5 minutes of reading before bed, the short walk before the day gets busy, the moment of writing down exactly what you're grateful for before you check your phone. None of these look impressive from the outside. None of these would make a highlight reel. But these are the bricks. Nobody stands in front of a finished building and asks to see one individual brick, but take away enough of them and the whole structure collapses. Respect the small rituals. Protect them like they're sacred, because in many ways they are. They are the quiet architecture of the person you are slowly becoming. I want to remind you that none of what I've shared with you today is complicated. It's simple, but simple and easy are two very different things. It is simple to read a book each day. It is simple to wake up 30 minutes earlier. It is simple to have an honest conversation instead of avoiding it. But simple things are so easy to do that they're equally easy not to do, and that's exactly why most people never do them, and why the people who do them consistently end up living a completely different life than everyone around them. The winning formula was never hidden or complicated. It was simply left undone by almost everyone who heard it. Let me talk to you honestly about money for a moment, because I don't want you to think that any of this means money doesn't matter. Money matters. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. Money buys options. Money buys time back. Money allows you to take care of the people you love without the constant anxiety of whether you'll be able to. But here is the distinction my mentor helped me see clearly. Money is a result, not a root. Money is the fruit, not the tree. If you chase the fruit without ever building the tree, the skills, the discipline, the character, the relationships, the reputation, you might grab a piece of fruit here and there, but you will never have an orchard. And even if you do stumble into a large sum of money without becoming the person capable of managing it, keeping it, growing it, and using it wisely, that money has a strange habit of disappearing just as quickly as it arrived. I have seen it happen more times than I can count. But when money arrives because of who you became, your skill, your discipline, your service to others, it tends to stay. And even if it's lost, that same person can build it right back again, because the tree is still standing even after the fruit has fallen. I want to talk to you about time, because time is the one currency in this entire conversation that nobody can print more of. You can lose money and make it back. You can lose a relationship and with effort sometimes repair it. Or you can lose an opportunity and another one will eventually come along. But you cannot get back a single day that has already passed. This is why the sentence, "set a goal for what it will make of you," carries such weight. If your time isn't building you into someone new, that time is gone, spent, and it's not coming back regardless of how you spent it. So the real question isn't just how you're spending your time. The real question is what your time is quietly making of you, day after day, whether you're paying attention to it or not. Every single day is either a deposit into the person you're becoming or a withdrawal from the time you'll never see again. Let me talk to you about something called the compound effect, because this explains why so many people give up right before the breakthrough is about to happen. Growth doesn't usually show up in a straight line. It shows up in a curve that looks flat for a long, long time, and then suddenly bends upward all at once. If you've ever watched a farmer, you know the corn doesn't grow visibly for weeks. Then suddenly, in the final stretch, it seems to shoot up overnight. But that sudden growth wasn't sudden at all. It was the result of every single day beneath the surface that nobody could see. This is exactly how becoming works. The reading doesn't feel like it's changing you after 1 week. The discipline doesn't feel like it's paying off after 1 month. But underneath the surface, every single rep is compounding, quietly, invisibly, until one day the results simply become undeniable to everyone around you. Don't judge your progress by the first few weeks. Judge it by the years, because that is where the real evidence lives. I want to talk to you about adversity and leadership for a moment, because I've noticed something interesting after decades of watching people rise and watching people collapse. The people who become real leaders, the ones others actually want to follow, are almost never the people who had the easiest road. They are the people who went through the hardest seasons and came out the other side having become someone steady, someone capable, someone who can stand in a storm without shaking because they've already stood in enough storms to know they survived them. Nobody follows a leader because that leader never struggled. People follow a leader because that leader struggled and became someone worth trusting on the other side of it. If you're in a difficult season right now, understand that difficulty is not disqualifying you from leadership. It might be the very thing qualifying you for it. Now let's talk about procrastination, because I know exactly what's happening in your mind right now. You're nodding along with everything I've said, and somewhere in the back of your head, a small voice is already planning to start tomorrow. Start the reading tomorrow. Start the discipline tomorrow. Have the hard conversation tomorrow. Set the real goal tomorrow. But tomorrow has a terrible habit of becoming another today and another today until years have quietly passed and nothing has actually changed. Here's the truth about procrastination that nobody wants to hear. Procrastination doesn't feel like a decision, but it is one. It is the decision to let today's comfort steal from tomorrow's potential. And the tragedy isn't that people don't know what to do. Most people already know exactly what they need to do. The tragedy is the gap between knowing and doing. And that gap is exactly where a wasted life quietly lives. I want you to notice something about your own life right now, in this very moment, as you're listening to this. There is probably already a goal sitting in the back of your mind that you have been putting off. Maybe it's a business you've wanted to start. Maybe it's a certification you've wanted to pursue. Maybe it's a relationship you've needed to repair, or a habit you've needed to break, or a conversation you've needed to have for months, maybe years. And I want you to ask yourself this, not what will I get if I finally do this, but who will I become if I finally do this? And more importantly, who am I slowly becoming every single day that I continue avoiding it? Because avoidance shapes you too. Avoidance is not neutral. Every day you avoid the thing you know you need to do, you are quietly becoming someone who avoids difficult things. And that version of you will show up in every other area of your life, whether you invited it there or not. I want to talk to you about self-image for a moment, because this quietly controls more of your behavior than you probably realize. You will never consistently outperform your own self-image. If deep down you see yourself as someone who is undisciplined, you will unconsciously sabotage even the best plans, because your actions will always try to match the picture you're carrying of yourself on the inside. This is why becoming matters so much more than simply achieving. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, every time you follow through on the hard thing when nobody would have known if you hadn't, you are quietly editing that internal picture. You are proving to yourself in small increments that you are someone who follows through. And once that new self-image takes root, the outer results start to follow almost automatically, because now your actions are simply catching up to who you've already decided you are on the inside. Let me also talk to you about the difference between a wish and a standard, because this distinction changed how I approached every single goal after I understood it. A wish is something you hope happens to you. A standard is something you refuse to let slide. Regardless of how you feel about it on any given day, most people are living by wishes. They wish they exercised more. They wish they read more. They wish they saved more, but wishes don't require anything of you, and that's exactly why they rarely produce anything either. Standard is different. A standard says this is simply who I am now, and I don't need motivation to maintain it any more than I need motivation to brush my teeth in the morning. When discipline becomes a standard instead of a wish, it stops depending on how inspired you feel that day, and it becomes part of your identity instead. That shift from wishing to standing on a standard is one of the quietest but most powerful transformations a person can make. There is a moment, and I believe every single person listening to this has faced one, where you are standing at a genuine choice point. On one side is the comfortable path, the path that requires nothing new of you, the path where you simply keep being who you've already been. On the other side is the path that requires you to stretch, to become someone slightly less comfortable, but significantly more capable. Most people standing at that choice point choose comfort, not because they're weak, but because comfort doesn't announce the cost until years later, while growth announces its cost immediately, up front, before you've even started. But here's what I've learned after enough years of watching both types of people. The cost of growth is temporary, and it's paid in advance. The cost of comfort is permanent, and it's paid on the back end, usually with interest, usually in the form of regret you can't undo. Choose the path that costs you something now, because that is almost always the path that pays you back later in the form of who you become. I want to be honest with you about something before we close. None of this works if you only listen to it and then go back to exactly the same routine you had yesterday. Understanding a lesson and living a lesson are two entirely different things, and the space between them is where most potential quietly dies. You could listen to 1,000 talks like this one and still wake up tomorrow exactly the same person if you don't take what you just heard and turn it into a decision. So I want you to make one decision right now before this ends. Not 10 decisions, just one. Pick the one area of your life where you've been setting shallow goals, chasing outcomes without ever asking what those outcomes are shaping you into, and decide right now to set a bigger goal in that one area, not for what it will hand you, but for who it will force you to become along the way. So let me ask you again, and I want you to actually answer this one honestly, not just let it pass by like background noise. What are you currently chasing? And more importantly, who is chasing it turning you into? Are you becoming more disciplined, or are you becoming more bitter? Are you becoming more patient, or are you becoming more anxious? Are you becoming someone your future self will thank you for, or someone your future self will have to spend years repairing? Because the goal will come and go. Circumstances will shift, markets will change, seasons will turn. But the person you are quietly becoming while you chase that goal, that stays with you. That becomes the operating system for the rest of your life. Here's what I want to leave you with today. Stop asking only what you want to get out of life. Start asking what you want life to make of you. Set the goal that terrifies you a little. Not because you're obsessed with the outcome, but because you understand that reaching for it will forge something in you that comfort never could. Wake up early, not because the clock demands it, but because the person you're becoming requires it. Take on the hard project, not because you need the recognition, but because you need the growth. Have the difficult conversation, not because you enjoy conflict, but because avoiding it is slowly shrinking the person you were meant to become. Because one day, and it will come faster than you expect, you will look back on this season of your life and you will not remember the goal the way you think you will. You will remember who you had to become to get there. You will remember the mornings you didn't want to get up but did anyway. You will remember the version of yourself that learned to keep going when everything in you wanted to quit. That version of you, the one built quietly in the pursuit of something bigger than comfort, that is the real prize. That was always the real prize. So set the goal, set it high enough that it scares you a little. But don't chase it for what it will give you. Chase it for what it will make of you. Because the greatest value in life was never what you get. The greatest value in life is what you become. Go become that person starting today.